Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Extra Time, the U.S. Men's National Team Soccer Podcast. I'm Tim, and in this episode, we are going to be doing our final predictions for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We're going to be looking at each side of the bracket. We're going to be looking at possibilities. We're going to talk about how far can United States men go, which teams have the hardest road to the final, which teams have the easiest road to the final, and if you were a betting person, where would we put our money? And that's not a sports betting thing because we're not going to talk about that here. That's just literally, if you had to look at your friends and say, I'd bet you $100 this is going to happen, where is it most likely to do those things? So all of that is going to come up. Let's get into it. So we are now 1 week, 7 days away from the 2026 FIFA World Cup. I am pumped. I'm getting excited. I get my gear out. Like every day it feels like there's something else in a store that I can buy, that I can collect, that I can throw in here. It is just absolutely amazing. And, been watching a lot of games. Lots of friendlies have happened. There's one more friendly that's going to be happening tomorrow. As the United States takes on Germany, you're seeing friendlies all over the rest of the world. Everybody's gearing up and getting ready. Teams are coming over. Like, it's real. The hype is real. And there's a bunch of things that I could say. A bunch of things that we could do and talk about. But what I wanted to do was go, okay, so now that we're like right on the cusp of this, I really can't imagine that tomorrow's friendly is going to change too much, right? Again, unless we get embarrassed. Too much of opinions on different things. So what I wanted to do was break down, what is this bracket looking like? What are all of these possibilities? Where is the math likely to get really weird and ugly? And hopefully present this video in a manner for if you're somebody who you don't know anything about this tournament, you don't know anything about the U.S. men's national team, I want to give a breakdown for everybody on what they can expect and what they can follow. I did it with some of the more exciting games. I'm going to try to mention them again today. We talked about those groups that it's just like, hey, you absolutely have to take those days off. I really wish I could have made a video for the knockout games. I'm going to try to make a lot of content next week before the tournament. I'm just going to be, hopefully every day putting out a video. So there will be, hopefully, a conversation about which knockout game is going to be the most exciting, but I'm going to give you a preview in this because we're going to see them in the bracket as they get made. So let's head on over first and let's take a look at this. So this is the top 48 power rankings, right? So if we looked at what the FIFA tournament is looking at right now, these are the teams in their breakdown, okay? And I think it's important that we start with this as we look at this because if you're going to start to make picks, right, and I do this, like if you're a March Madness person, right, and you go do the March Madness bracket, one of the things I like to do is first, a lot of people like to go matchup by matchup, right, and they're saying these things and they're like, oh, the 9's going to upset the 8, or like, is this the year for the 16 seed and all that stuff. One of the things I like to sit back and do is look at the end of each of the brackets, right? Typically, they wind up in the semifinals, right? So you're going to have the 4 big grids, same thing with the FIFA one. They have the East region, West region, right? And just think to yourself, like, which one of these teams is the most likely to win this, right? And back up one. Which 2 teams from each of these regions are the most likely to be competing for this, right? And then back up again. What are the 4 teams in this region? So I think it's important as we go to do this that you kind of have that, like, let's not get into the weeds on like each of the matchups. Let's just look at it and go, what are the teams that are most likely to make it here, right? So first, if you start with this, if you had to pick one of these columns and go, where's the winner coming from, right? It's probably coming from 1. The chances that it's coming from 2 are possible, but significantly more slim, right? So if you're sitting here and you're like, I have to pick a World Cup winner, you're probably picking them from pot 1. And it's falling off pretty hard. Now, you might have your opinions on Morocco, maybe like not being a darling again. You might have your opinions on England and be like, guys, it's never coming home again. Like, the nuances of that are okay. But if we're just sitting here thinking like, I'm going to pick a winner, is it like, man, like, is it going to be anybody in Group 3? like, it's probably not going to be anybody in that column 3, right? And that's just unfortunately how this tournament works. It's once every 4 years. The best team is the team that's going to win. It's not like a lot of American sports, where American sports, if you're, again, this video is for American consumers. That's kind of how our models work. We have our salary caps and we want a lot of parity, and, teams who didn't make the playoffs last year could win, the Super Bowl or the NBA or the NHL the following year, and vice versa. The teams who win the league could not even make the playoffs the next year. That stuff doesn't happen in tournaments like this. And the world rankings, like, there's really not a lot of parity. Now, things that do translate is it's really difficult for teams to win back-to-back tournaments, right? So when you think about teams that won, for instance, Argentina winning the previous one, France the one before that, even though they're a more favored team, it's significantly less likely that Argentina is going to win it, just if you're just looking at an odds perspective, right? And I'm not saying odds as in their odds to win. I'm just saying as like general statistics, right? It's no different than you say, like, what are the odds that teams are going to sweep and win 4 out of 7 games, right? It happens, right? But it's not very likely. And for teams to go through tournaments completely undefeated, these are like monumental historic moments that we talk about and we celebrate. And like, we have to be like, man, this is like a once in a lifetime journey, right? To be completely undefeated. So those are the things that we got to think about when we think about these things. So, and what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to break down now, as we start to think about this, which of these teams has the easiest road to the World Cup final, right? To the semifinals and to the quarterfinals. Because the way that I look at this tournament, okay, we're playing best of 1 games. So if you're somebody who hasn't watched this tournament, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to have a round-robin group stage, and in the round-robin group stage, teams are going to play 3 games. They're going to play everybody once. Unlike previous World Cups, where the top 2 teams made it, this World Cup's going to get interesting because it's going to be the top 2 teams and then 8 of the 12 third-place teams. And if we thought tiebreakers from the previous World Cup were interesting, goal differential and goals for are going to be massive factors in this, and it's going to be very, very difficult to predict which teams are going to be playing against who where, which on the plus side might make it so that a lot of teams have to go for it more, and they're way less likely to rest their players. But on the downside, it's going to be a little bit more frustrating as a fan to try to figure out, like, who are we playing and what are our chances and how excited should I be about the next game? The other thing that it's changing is some of these teams, just by happenstance, because of where they were in the draw, are going to have significantly easier roads to the finals and the semifinals than other teams in the bracket. And so those are the things that I want to break down and talk about. So as we move this over, right, if you're not using something like this, this is fantastic. This is just, you just like search for a simulator, and it's there and you get it. And I'm not like, I had it auto simulate this before, so it's like kind of crazy, like some of the results that it put in. But if we just kind of like looked at these and thought of like, what is like the most likely result for these games that are going to happen, like you might wind up with things like this. Now, I think this one is really unlikely because I don't see this happening. I see Paraguay winning this game, right? And like just going through and just going like, okay, like, yeah, this is going to be significantly more. And as you move these, you're going to notice these teams in green, these are the teams that are making it. But as the goal differential changes, right? So we come down here to the bottom, the best third place teams, it's really tight. Like all of these teams have 3 points, and the goal differential is the reason that they're getting in or out. So if I have the Ivory Coast here at -4, if I move Czechia to -4, so we go find Czechia, right? And I think it's important because this is why the math is going to get so crazy. Where is Czechia? I passed them. They were one of these teams down here, I think, right? Am I crazy? Where's Czechia? Czechia, where are you? Okay. Of course, they're in the very first group. So let's move Czechia's goal differential to like 1 less. Let's say South Korea scores 1 less goal, right? And let's say that they only score 3. Okay. Now all of a sudden Czechia's in. Whereas if Czechia loses by 4, they're out, right? If it's 4-2, Czechia's in. So many of these things are going to be so difficult. Like even with Canada, right? Like statistically, Canada was one of the teams that a lot of people were saying they're going to beat Qatar. So like Canada's pretty likely to go to make this. Like these are things that are going to be a really strong possibility, and they're going to make it really, really difficult for us to figure this out. So if I'm sitting here and thinking about the knockout and I'm thinking about the groups, one of the things that I want to do is I want to just sit here, right, and we'll head back and go, okay, so realistically, who are like the bottom teams? So like who are teams that like we just look at the groups and we're like, there's just no way that we're going to make this at all, right? You could do it by going, okay, so if I know that 12 and then another 4, so 16 teams are going to go, is it going to be the bottom 16 teams? Is it going to be everybody in 5 and everybody in 6, right? Maybe. It could be, but Bosnia ain't half bad. Scotland's not half bad. Czechia's not half bad. Jordan and Saudi Arabia ain't half bad. Ghana's not half bad. Tunisia's not half bad. So, like, could it be true? Could it not be true? And I think the groups themselves are going to be things that we're going to have to think about, right? Because you could go through and say, you know, well, let's just start with New Zealand. There's no chance. Haiti, no chance. Curacao, no chance, right? And then you're like, Ghana, maybe no chance. So if we know it's going to be bottom 16, now you start looking at each of the groups. So here's kind of what I did. So I started at Group A, and I was like, is it just like obvious that one of these groups isn't going to make it? Now, you might be somebody who's going, yeah, it's obvious South Africa, right? I'd put an asterisk next to South Africa because Bafana, they've put up some results, and this group is, I think, one of the tightest groups in the tournament. So I was like, it's not obvious. Qatar felt obvious, so I marked Qatar. So there's one team gone. For this one, Haiti. Pretty obvious to me. I think that their World Cup was making the World Cup, and then that's going to be it, right? I go into Group D. Easy to kind of say Australia, right? Like, but I mean, Australia is not poorly ranked. They're up there, right? They're in like the 30s. So we're going to skip them. Curacao, see you later. This group pretty tight, so we're not going to do that, right? And as I kept going, New Zealand, Cabo Verde, it's probably Iraq, but again, I kind of left this one up, right? I wanted to find the ones that just like jumped off the page. It's absolutely, there's just no chance, right? And so I wound up with Qatar, Haiti, Curacao, New Zealand, and Cabo Verde as those. So then you started looking through it and going like, okay, so like, it's probably Uzbekistan or Congo. It's probably Algeria or Jordan. It's probably Panama or Ghana, right? And then it just became like, so you start to see that like, it's going to be goal differential. And it's going to be the match order, and it's going to be how things kind of pan up. And it's going to be, there's going to be so many things that we have to think about, right? So like, I want to go through and I want to just change like a couple of these results just so that I start to get more of like what it looks like mine was. I truly don't understand. Oh, because they have Egypt beating Belgium. What a weird result to do. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just going to kind of glance over these because I don't need them to be perfect. I just need them to be relatively close to what I think is going to happen. No, go away. Right? Like that's fine. Like I'm not really concerned. I'm just concerned with like, are the teams that I think are going to go through going through? I think this one was backwards. I don't think Ecuador is going to do this. Do they have Ecuador beating Germany? Of course they do. I mean, it could. Let's just assume. There we go. Let's just assume they draw. Just to get ourselves in there. Okay. Just quick glances. Uzbekistan's not going to be over Portugal. I don't know how that result happened. Oh, because they... Oh, my gosh. Sometimes AI is fantastic, and other times AI is not. Okay. So, like, this is... You wind up with something that looks like this, right? With, like, Panama being the top thing. It's going to depend on groups. It's going to depend on a lot of different breakers. But as you go to do this, like, you're going to see how convoluted and crazy that this is going to get because it's all based on this goal differential. Right? And it could be goals for and goals against, and it's so tight. It is so tight in here. There is a -2 to a -3 to a -4, and then up here, it's just they happen to have 2 wins, right? So it looks like from this, 4 points is going to be the lock. If your team can come up with 4 points, you're going through even if you're the third place team, okay? So that's like the first big takeaway. The next big takeaway is it's going to be goal differential. So teams that are playing in tighter groups where they're playing against more teams that are similar to them with less goal scoring potential are more likely to go through. What does this mean from a tactics perspective? Okay. Unfortunately for Americans, this means you're more likely to see games where teams know that there's no chance that they can win. So you look at Haiti, right? Haiti's like 1 goal differential potentially away, maybe a win away, right? Haiti is now going, if I'm playing the top team in my group, and we know we can't win. Previous World Cup, you got to try. You got to go early. You got to try to get the goal and then park the bus and hope not. In this, it's like we don't need the win. We just actually can't get killed. So if we lose to the top team in our group 1 or 2-0, we're in a really good position now to try to steal a point or get a couple draws against other people and then maybe be able to make it through, right? In that capacity. So those are the things that we have to think about. The other thing that gets interesting, okay, so we're going to go to the knockout stage and we're going to start to look at this, okay? Because this is something that's super, super important. If you win your group, okay? If you win your group, 8 of the 12 teams who win their group, okay? And this is why I don't like, I think you go all the way to 64 or you leave it. I think 48 is a weird number. 8 of the 12 are going to play the third place team. That means the rest of them are playing a second place team, which means that some of the results that we're going to be generating, you're going to wind up in situations where the best team in one group, because of their position in the tournament, was more favored than other teams simply because their group got the play the third place, whereas other groups were playing a second place team. Most of the groups, the second place team is playing another second place team of a similar one. The reason that that's so confusing, if this is your first World Cup, in the previous World Cup, it was very simple. There was 8 groups. You got paired with the group next to you, A and B, C and D, E and F, G and H. 1 played 2, 2 played 1. And the bracket flowed that way. Whereas in this one, that's not necessarily what's happening. Right? And so it gets kind of weird and kind of tricky. Okay? So let's go back over because some weird things. Now, again, the actual results that I put in my big results one, I'm going to have to go back and fix and show you some different things because this isn't exactly how most people have the bracket lining up because of points and tiebreakers. But you can see, so like most of the people, this is gonna happen. The United States and Belgium is going to be a game that happens, right? But this area right here, this area is filled with Spain. Because statistically, this is the spot that winner is going to be. And it's I mean, I guess Uruguay could win, but like, I didn't even really think I had Austria going through. And like Portugal, I had winning, and they should be on the other side of the bracket, right? So, it all depends. It all depends. So we'll go back over here and we're going to look at some stuff, right? Because now we got to sit here and go through and go, okay, like now let's actually start to think to ourselves, like realistically, what do we think? I don't think Morocco is going to beat Brazil. I really don't. Okay. And I think that that's going to be a big factor in everything that we're looking at. I don't think Paraguay is going to beat Turkey, right? And when I did this, I like to kind of just like keep things simple. And I was just doing like 1-0 results either way, just because that seemed to make the most sense. That's not going to happen there. This might happen. This looks fine. This looks fine. This looks fine. This looks fine. Uruguay, Spain over Cabo Verde. I gave them like 5 because I figure like you always have that one thing where like the team just absolutely runs the score up. And then I think best case scenario, it's going to be a 1-1 draw. Right? Belgium meets Iran, France, Norway, Senegal. All those make sense. Colombia, Portugal. This is possible. This is certainly possible for Colombia and Portugal to exist in the manner that they exist in. This is certainly possible. Like, this is going to be a toss-up between England and Croatia. Like, who's going to figure it out? England's going to play Croatia pretty early on. So, like, that's going to be a big determining factor. But, like, even if we have them drawing, like, things immediately flip, right? And if we have them drawing, first off, this is not happening. There's no way. So I think it's like, let's just give them the draw and then figure it out in this capacity. But what I want you to see is like, look at how much this changed. All of a sudden, Panama's down here on the bottom. And if we go to the knockout stage, look at how much this bracket changed. Right? Portugal's on this side of this, but all of a sudden, Argentina disappeared. They're on the other side. Right? Germany's still here. Canada got moved around because they're not in our bracket, right? And it's still positive. So, like, other possibilities is people had Canada. I think it was like the Golazo network. They had some math that said it was like 66% likelihood that the team that we were going to play was going to be the third place team from that top group. And I think that's just because of some weird thing. There's math that like doesn't really make any sense to me. And I've previously generated this bracket where Portugal was down over here, I think. So, and like Mexico was on the other side. But again, so like if anything could happen, right? Let's just look at each of the things. So here's semifinal. Okay. So I'm going to go, I have these 8 teams, right? And this is how I want us to look at this. I have these 8 teams. I have these 8 teams. I'm going to come over here. I have these 8 teams, and I have these 8 teams, right? And I know it's kind of tough to see because of this. Let me move this. You'll be able to see it. It'll make more sense. Okay. I'm going to move myself. I'm going to disappear for a second. Oh. And then I'll move myself, and I'll jump over to the other side with the other one. Okay. So if you're just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Who are the best 2 teams in this group, right? Well, it's going to be Germany, France, Netherlands, or Morocco. Unfortunately, these 2 teams have to play each other, right? Well, that makes it easy to pick Germany and France. And then I just have to decide which one of these teams is better. This one, I don't know that it's going to matter because you're sitting here thinking to yourself, either one of these teams is better, right? So here's one where you can go, all right, you got to put your money where your mouth is and do kind of a matchup. I would be picking the Netherlands, and then I'm going to be picking Korea. But again, I'm thinking, no, it's going to be Netherlands and France, okay? So, like, I'm not worried about, like, oh, is Paraguay going to be able to do it? Or, like, could they? No, it's like, who are going to be the best teams? And then coming down here, same thing. Like, it's Spain, it's Portugal, it's us, it's Belgium, right? Now, Portugal really could be on the other side of the bracket. I think it would be crazy if they were on this side of the bracket. I do think it would be absolutely crazy if they're on this side of the bracket. But, like, before I give any spoilers, like this is kind of where I think things are going to wind up, right? So if we switch over to the other side of this bracket, and again, now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do some fun magic with myself, and I'm going to jump over to the other side because that's how this has to work. So now we're on the other side of the bracket. Okay, bottom 8 teams, right? And already you're looking at this and noticing like, wow, like what is this down here, right? It's going to be Argentina. It's going to be Colombia. I don't necessarily think either one of these matters, right? And you're going to wind up with Argentina, Colombia. Now, again, you might go through by your scores and by the way you do it, and I'm telling you, and this is why it's so hard to do these predictions, is Colombia's on the other side of the bracket. If I grab mine and I look at it, already on my bracket, so Colombia's in the right spot. I guess I did have Portugal. I guess I do have Portugal over on the Spain side. So I do have Portugal over on this other side, and I have Spain beating them. So it's going to be super, super tight. But my Germany wound up on the other side when I did this, based on what I thought was going to happen when I did it. But I had Morocco on this, and Korea, Sweden, France, and then I had Ecuador and Scotland somehow. So I was really believing. I had Ecuador. I got Ecuador and Scotland at like the top of this thing. This is going to be really, really crazy. So you can see just how wild the possibilities and the results could be with a difference of just literally 1 goal. A 1 goal difference could move a team from one side, like not from playing a team to playing a team. That's already a big enough gap from being, playing the runner up to a 3rd place team. That's already crazy. But the fact that like the runner ups on the left side of the bracket and the 3rd place teams on the bottom and on the right side of the bracket, like that is it's going to be so crazy when you start to think about who you could possibly be playing, right? So then we kind of go through here, like this game is going to be wild. This game is going to be wild. But we're going to pick this. So just like because again, if I'm thinking it's going to be England, Brazil, then it really doesn't matter who I pick. And like this, it probably could be Norway. Randomly, the Ivory Coast just beat France in a friendly, and I don't really think Mexico's going to go that far, so I'm just going to pick them. But then I have England and Brazil. So again, already if I'm looking at this, okay, just look at this half of the bracket based on these results, okay, and think about the teams that we had that were ranked. So think about those teams that we had that were ranked. Over here, we got Brazil. They're the 6th ranked team. Okay. We got to go to England. England's the 4th ranked team. Argentina's the 3. Uruguay's 17. And Colombia is 13. Everybody else on here is in that pool 3 or down, right? I mean, I guess Senegal's on this side, right? Okay, Senegal's 14. So you have very few teams from those first two pools. Whereas if you come to the other side of the bracket, you got Belgium, the United States, Spain, Portugal. You have Croatia. You have Morocco, Netherlands, France, Germany. This side, like the side of the bracket the United States is the most likely to wind up on, is going to be the most difficult bracket, or half of the bracket. Okay. And I think this side is going to be one of the most dangerous ones. I do think that some of the harder matchups are going to be 73, 74, 75, and 77. I think those are going to be the hardest matchups based on a lot of the simulations and predictions that I've done just for the teams that could wind up there. Okay. I think the next hardest is going to be this bottom bracket because there is a chance Portugal winds up here. If not, it's a Croatia. It's the runner-up. Spain's going to be down here. Belgium's going to be down here. Right. But for the United States, right, we're going to have, if you got to win the group to have a halfway decent knockout game, right? Most of the models are showing if you don't win the group, you're going to wind up on the other side of the bracket and you're going to be over here and you're going to be playing in Argentina. Okay. So to go back to the question that I kind of opened this thing with, who do I think, looking at this, has the easiest road to the semifinal? Okay. I think it's England. But both in this model and the models I've done before, I think unanimously, if England doesn't make a semifinal, it is a crime. And there's just no saving the Three Lions at that point if England does not make a semifinal. Because their road to get there is going to be one of the easiest roads. Honestly, or I shouldn't say, if they don't make a quarterfinal, it's a crime. Semifinal, they're going to have to go through at least one good team. But to make a semifinal, they have to play one team. Their semifinal is going to be Brazil. So if England can't make a quarterfinal, that's a crime, and there is no saving the Three Lions, right? The same thing with like Argentina. I mean, if Uruguay is the Uruguay that played us, Argentina is not going to struggle with them at all, and Argentina is a lock for a quarterfinal. Because you look at their road and you look at the teams that they have to play, that's going to be pretty simple as well. So this side of the bracket, these games are going to be crazy easy, right? I think even for a Colombia, right? Switzerland is going to be a tough program. They're going to be a tough team to play against, but I think you got to get yourself to this Argentina game, and that is like an absolute must. Some of this is because of the nature of having third-place teams, and there are just teams that drew, I'm playing a really weak third-place team, and then I'm playing the 2-2s, and those 2-2 seeds, they both were kind of and I got paired against them in the next round after that, right? And if we drop over to this side of the bracket and we start looking at things like this, right, you're going, all right, USA, we got one, I'm not saying if it's Bosnia, it's going to be easy by any means because they beat Italy. Like, they're a good squad. They're a good side. But if you just imagine it's a third place team and you win the knockout game, that's your last easy game, right? The teams on the other side of the bracket, they have one more game before things start getting hard, right? Like their round of 16 game is significantly easier than ours is going to be. Our round of 16 game with, everybody is basically going, it's going to be a Belgium. If we win our group, we're going to be playing Belgium, right? We got to get excited for that game. Spain and Portugal, I mean, that's not necessarily that easy of a road. Like, Portugal is going to have it real hard. You're playing a Croatia who's ranked, so when you have the 5th ranked team against the 11th ranked team this is the new knockout. This isn't the knockout from the old World Cup. This is like, it should be even easier than that. And there's a chance that you have, so like, this is one of the worst draws that you can get. Whoever winds up in match 83, this is one of the worst draws that you can get coming out of your group because you performed well in your group and you still wound up in a position where you had to play one of the top teams and then another top team and then another top team. It's like you win you basically like perform well in your group and it doesn't matter. You have to win the next 5 games to win the World Cup. Which, yes, every single person who comes out of their group has to win 5 games in a row to win the World Cup. You have to win 5 games against probably top 15 ranked opponents. And if you're looking at this, you have to win games against top 10 ranked opponents. Like Portugal and Croatia, every single one of their games, it's like Portugal's is technically top 11 because Croatia's 11th. But if you're Croatia, every single one of your games against a top 10 ranked opponent. Has Croatia made a run before? Yeah. They've dragged down on penalty kicks. They've made it. Croatia's a good squad. They could do it again, right? They could make that deep run. But even looking through here, right? It's a little bit easier. All these teams are going to have at least that first match to get out of, maybe with the exception of this match 75. But, like, this ain't too bad, right? I mean, if Morocco is the Morocco of the last World Cup, this will be a tough game for the Netherlands. But then you kind of, like, almost potentially take a match off and then go back in a quarterfinal, right? So these are just, like, these are things that I think are very interesting about this World Cup and are really fascinating about this World Cup. And there are things that make it really difficult to have any idea of where people are going to finish and how they're going to stack up. So I think that England have probably the easiest road to get to a semifinal, right? And out of all of the teams to have to play, Brazil has been, like, Brazil is kind of like in England. They've been they're really, really good on paper. They can put up insane results. They come out of the tournament guns blazing, and then they just fall off. So even though that game could be really, really exciting, you almost want to sit there and be like, okay, so then, like, who's got the next easy, like the easiest road to the final is Argentina. Because your road to a quarterfinal was easy. Your road to a semifinal is easy. And then who you're playing in the semifinal is a team that, like, statistically has just been right? Now, I don't think that Argentina is going to repeat and is going to win another World Cup. Like, I really don't. And I have Spain winning on my bracket. But it doesn't look like it doesn't feel like we're in a position for a team that hasn't won the World Cup yet, maybe with the exception of the Netherlands, to win a World Cup. Just because of the way that the bracket lays out and the way the teams are going to go. So if you're somebody who, like, you haven't watched this tournament, you haven't followed this tournament, like, that's kind of how things are going to go down. That's kind of what it's going to look like. It's going to be really weird to follow. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about goal differential and goals for. You're going to see teams playing for draws at times, teams playing not to get blown out. You're going to see teams pouring it on and trying to get another one in. So you might be like, I don't understand this team's, they're already winning 3-0. Like, why are they trying to score more goals? Like, they've already won. That doesn't make any sense. It's because they're trying to boost their goal differential and they're trying to get that other spot, right? So for me, I think that it really basically kind of doesn't matter what the United States does. We're going to get that one knockout game, and then it's going to be, kind of gung-ho from there. So anyway, that's my take. That's kind of how I'm looking at this. That's how I encourage everybody else to look at it. If you're somebody who's making a bracket with your friends, that's kind of my breakdown of just ways that you should look at it and ways that you could kind of try to figure that out. If you're somebody who is going to do the betting and the sports gambling, just remember, like, be smart about it. You're not winning life-changing money. Like, do it because it's fun. Pick an amount of money that you think you would spend on just like a leisurely activity. That's what we do. Whenever we go to a casino, I just think, how many hours am I going to be there? And how much money would I spend on any other activity that was going to take that long, right? You go out to dinner with your significant other, with your friends. Maybe it costs you $30-$40, right? So my wife and I go, we each bring like $50, right? And we're going to gamble with 50, right? If we're going to be out, for longer and we're saying that maybe you bring $100, but don't be the person who's like, oh, this is a lock and it's whatever. Like, there's no locks in the World Cup. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be crazy. So don't get sucked into any of those things. And just get ready to enjoy and get ready to have fun. I'm going to try to bring as much content as I can over the next week. We're going to be talking about the USA-Germany game. We're going to be giving the final thoughts after that's done. We're going to be talking about the most exciting group stage matchups because just like I showed on it, that match 75 could be crazy. Match 83 is going to be crazy. So the days of the week that those games are on, those are massive games. If the United States finishes in second, right, and winds up playing as like a Germany in the knockout, right, match 74 could be crazy. So like there's just statistically there are going to be games on here that are going to be wild, right, absolutely wild. And I think they're going to be on the left side of the bracket. And I'm really thinking like match 75 and match 83 are going to be like, you absolutely have to watch these games. Those are days that if you're going to take off from work, you got to take them off from work. But we'll give a whole breakdown in a future video. I really appreciate everybody checking this out. Leave your comments below. Who do you think has the easiest road to the semifinals and to the finals? I would love to hear it. Until the next one, take care.